Hey up, it's Farmer Phil here from Peahy Farms, and today I'm just going to talk about one of the reasons why we have goats in our mob of grazing animals. Um, Besides them being really cool and having a super personality, and that's because we've got quite a lot of areas on our block that are like this, quite steep, brushy, and some, kind of invasive, both natives and non-natives to New Zealand. And one of the things we've got is matagouri, and that's this really thorny shrub. It does take a long time to grow, but really proliferates in dry, arid, windy areas. And so we tend to find it on these north-northwest facing slopes where, this block's been lease grazed for 20 years. So the kind of land management prior to us getting it would kind of help that type of plant proliferate, whilst I guess discouraging the more palatable grazing species. So matagouri can have spines on it that are up to 2 inches, 50mm long, and I've got a couple of examples here, and I might just bring them a wee bit closer to the camera. I don't know if you can see this particular one. I've just cut this off a fresh this is this year's growth because it's green, but they do become dry and hard after a winter, and so animals really don't want to go near it at all. And God, I wouldn't if I was a cow or a sheep. I'd stay well away. So you can understand how something like this that germinates in a pasture will just be left alone if you just set stock in with sheep and cattle. They're going to choose the more palatable species over this any day of the week. But we find with goats, they not only go for the new growth, this green new growth that comes in, but also they have, you're probably not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to be very careful because it is pretty sharp, some tiny little leaves just at the base of each of the spines, and they also nibble away at those. And goats have got this incredibly dexterous mouth, lip and jaw, and so they can find their way in there and nibble away at these leaves, as well as the older goats tended to hoe down completely on this really aggressive shrub. And so we're hoping, just by having a few goats within our mob as we're moving around, that we can just get on top of, at least stop it keep carrying on getting out of control, which it is. And I don't mind a bit of it. It certainly is here and providing shelter for us in the meantime, whilst we've not got a lot of trees within the pasture. So it does provide some wind shelter, a bit of shade when it's hot out, but it also can clump together and encourage the bracken to form around it, which is another pretty tricky one we've found hard how to actually manage here. And so we try and do that with higher stock density and leaving the goats in those paddocks a bit longer. And that tends to help us a wee bit, but it's something we've not fully worked out yet. So if anybody's got any ideas on how they're controlling bracken, other than a super high density, which we're really struggling with on some of the extent size of our steep slopes, certainly not impossible to kind of not strip graze, but break down into small cells where you can get a reasonable density. We just can't get yet the density required to really break it down, but small areas we can, and it's working well. I mean, you're seeing what looks like a discarring on the landscape here, but that's as we've trampled it and opened up and got rid of some of this brush fern gorse, which does just smother and drown out the landscape. So it's pretty good to break that down, and then these areas will give a much longer recovery period to give the most severely grazed species time to regrow. So that's just one reason. There is actually a handful. So you might hear from us in future about a few more. Catch you later.